Welcome back to Boring Build Friday. Have you ever had one of those builds that just never seem to end? Well, that's our Lexus here. Hopefully, it ends today. It started off, it should have been pretty simple, with just a timing belt, brakes, and oil change and sent it down the road. Well, it wasn't quite so simple. I got a little more involved than I probably should have, but at least it's going to be a nice car for the next owner. So let's see everything I had to do and get rid of this thing. So the first thing we need to do is get everything off the quarter so the bodywork gnomes can do the work that wasn't done correctly. We're going to pull the bumper off. Not all the way off, just down a little bit. Pull the taillight out. Pull out that filler. And there's what the last guy did. Got some nasty orange peel on what little paint actually stayed on. Since it's starting to peel really close to this window, we're going to have to pull this window out. I would have left it in and just taped around it because this is not a show car. But I don't want our new paint peeling off, so we're going to have to strip all that down on the entire quarter panel, reprime it, and find out what lies underneath. So I'll pull the glass out. Let's use our window wire. Take our time. Now we'll be able to get underneath that edge. Now I'll pull the whole bumper off. We're gonna have to repaint it anyway. Free tools. So we gotta pull out this little trap door here. Tray down there for whatever you want to hide. Remove the rear sill plate. And now there's 4 bolts across the back. The bumper just slides off. Then pull the bumper bracket off. So the bodywork gnomes showed up and did their job. Now we need to take the door off and take it apart and seam seal the rest of it so the painting gnomes can show up and do their job. Once they do, we'll be able to put the door back on and then they can come back again and paint the outside. So we'll strip down our used door while it's on the car. That way we can power it up instead of trying to do it on the ground and jumping everything. So we'll pull all our screws out of there. Okay, now we'll pull all our screws out of there.
Knew there would be one in there.
Lift the door panel off. We'll disconnect our door handle and our lock.
Ah, Toyota and your goo.
These water barriers are not fun because Toyota likes to use this glue. Just makes a mess. Bracket bolts over it, so you gotta take it off to get the water barrier out. I'm quickly losing patience with this water barrier. I have another one. So now we can put the window down. Unbolt the window track or the stationary glass. Pull the glass out. Then pull the track out. Finish unbolting the regulator. Slide the glass off the regulator. This one doesn't unbolt. It's like the old style, slides out the end of the track. We got the glass out. Now we can unplug the regulator and slide it out of there. Now we're ready to take the door off. We don't need power for anything else. We'll strip the rest of it down on a stand. Now it's time to do the seam sealer. So we'll put some tape on to outline the edge so we can get kind of a factory finish. Put our seam sealer on. Doesn't matter if it's perfect. Let's use our finger. Kind of smooth it out a little bit. Okay, safety experts, this is where you tell me I should be wearing gloves. So when it gets to be about the right thickness, now we can go over it with an acid brush that's soaked in wax and grease remover. With a little bit of light pressure, just kind of smooth it out a little bit. It'll give it a nice flat finish. If you really want to, you can actually put the same kind of marks in it that the factory uses. I don't care that much. I just want it to look decent and seal. I'm going to peel our tape off while it's still wet. If we need to, we can go over those edges. But they're supposed to be a little bit sharp, so we're going to leave them alone. Now we got our seam sealer inside the wheel well. We're going to do it the same way. Still no gloves. Oh well. Use our acid brush with our wax and grease remover. Just light pressure, otherwise you'll make a mess. Peel off our tape. Now that edge was a little harsh, so we're going to smooth it out a little bit. It takes a little longer to dry when you use the wax and grease remover, but it does give it a nice finish. So now back to our door. Unbolt the speaker, pop it out of there. Unplug the wiring harness. Fish it out of the door. Now we can unbolt the door latch. Slide it out. There's one bolt for the door handle. That's why we have to take the door latch out. That and so we can paint it. So now our door handle's off. We can get the base out. I want to take the door gasket off. Most of the clips you can get to from the inside. Just squeeze the tabs together. But there's a couple that there's a double panel. And I'll risk using a little pliers on them. Pull the belt molding off. Kind of pry it up a little bit as you pull up on it. Now we got the upper trim on the front of the door. It drops down into a slot. It's got two-sided tape on the back, and there's a screw in the top. I guess I really want to make sure that's not coming back off. Now we're onto the door molding on the outside. It's just two-sided tape on, so we'll cut the two-sided tape off with a razor blade. Keep a little pressure on it as you slide the razor blade through and lift it off. It's got some alignment pins on it. That one didn't stay where it was supposed to. So it goes in a pile. Now we use our magic eraser. Get all the rest of the two-sided tape off. So the painting gnomes were here. They edged out our door and our door jamb. So let's throw the door back on there so they can get the outside painted. So I don't know why they had these little plastic caps right behind the door hinge, but I was afraid I was going to forget them. So that's the first thing I'm going to put back on. And I have the one plastic retainer that I removed before I lost interest. So we'll stick that back on. I'll let the painting gnomes paint the rest of them. Sue me, I'm not perfect. Now we're going to put the door latch on. We haven't put the handle in it. We're just using the latch to hold the door closed. Put our little switch in for our light. And our door striker. Now we put a door on. Slide it in the hinges. Latch the back of it. Then put our bolts in our hinges. They're self-aligning. So we're done. Now we can pull the front door apart. Got all the screws on the first try this time. Pull the door panel off. Disconnect our handle and lock. And a few wires. Now we can unplug our mirror and unbolt it. Slide it off. Now we can put the window down. That gives us access to our belt molding. Just pops off. Put our window back up. Now we get to our door handle. Move this retainer in the back so we can pull out the lock. Slide the handle back, pull it out. And now to the body side molding. Cut that two-sided tape off. Pull the molding out. So now we use our magic eraser to get the rest of the two-sided tape off. These are available in my Amazon store. Links in the description. They save a lot of time from the old-fashioned way of using your finger. It also saves all the skin on your finger. So now that everything's stripped down, we're ready for the painting gnomes. I'll see you guys when they're done. Well, look at that. They're done. So now we can throw the door back together. So we'll put our little gaskets around our door handle. They slide in the front and clip in. Now put our handle in. Slide it forward. And put our door lock in. Tighten up the retainer on the back. And make sure it works. What do you know? Slide our belt molding back in. And throw our mirror back on. Run the wires through there. Clip it in. And put the bolts in. Bolt it all in and plug it in. Now we're ready to put the door panel on. Plug in all of our wires. Reconnect our cables for our handle and lock. And put the door panel up there. We repainted this front door, one, so we could blend it, and two, they had painted the bottom of it before, and it looked just as bad as the quarter panel. So we had to redo all that. Well, I didn't. The painting gnomes did. We use our door panel installation tool. And then we'll screw the door panel back in. Put our little covers back on. Switches back in. One little plastic push pin. Cover for the door lock. Now we're onto the back door. We'll pull that latch out that we put in there temporarily. Now we put the inner handle in. It's got one set screw in the front. Just clips in the back. When you tighten it up, it draws the pin in there and holds it in place. And put our little gaskets in. A lot of people forget these. That's how you can tell somebody's been here before. Now put the handle back in. Put the front in and slide it forward. Now put the cap on the back. Hold it in place. Just snaps in. Tighten up that screw that's so conveniently located behind the door latch. Now you can put the door latch back in. There's a linkage on the bottom of the handle. The latch just slides up in it. Doesn't clip in or anything. Just got kind of a V in it. Bolt it in place. And we'll put our stationary glass in. The clean freaks are going nuts because I didn't clean the bottom of that. Sorry guys. I'll put our window track in. Slide the top in. Use our window track installation tool. And there's a set screw in the top. Put that in there. Make sure it stays in place. Run our window channel. It just pushes in. Work our way all the way around. And we'll drop the glass in. Well, not actually drop it. We'll put it in there. I guess we could drop it. We got a spare. So we'll get it inside the channel. And we'll slide it up there. Throw a bolt in our track. Now we can put our regulator in. Lower our window down. Slide the end of the regulator into our track. And just move the regulator around until all the bolts line up. Kind of push up on the window a little bit. Bolt our track in. And bolt our regulator in. Now we'll run our wiring harness through our door. Pull the grommets into place. We'll route it through the door where it's supposed to be. And then start clipping it in. So this is that molding. That's two-sided tape screwed and slides on. So we'll peel the backing off our two-sided tape. We'll slide it on while holding the back away from the door, clip it into where it goes, and then set the two-sided tape in. Then we'll put the screw in the back. It's not going anywhere. I feel bad for the next guy. We'll put our belt molding on, just clips in. And now we're onto our door gasket. The outside of it slides under, and you just kind of squeeze it in and it'll pop into its place. Work our way around the top of the door. And then we'll just push in our little retainers. We didn't even break one. Put our door check back in. And now we're ready to move on to the rear bumper. I lost interest in the door. So we'll put our marker lights in. Just one tab on the outside, and then they screw in. Got a new light for this side since the other one was broken. Put our bumper bracket on, our left quarter panel. Now we're ready to put the bumper up. Plug in those marker lights. Slide it in on those 4 bolts across the back. And use our bumper installation tool on the sides. And put our sill plate in. Get it lined up. And push it into place. Put our little tray in there. Put a couple screws in the bottom of the bumper. Now you can put the taillight in. Just slides into place. And it's got a few screws in the back. Now we put our body side moldings on. Peel the two-sided tape off. Line up the alignment pins. The ones that are still doing their job anyway. And push it in. I'll do the front. Make sure you throw the leftover pieces from the two-sided tape on the ground. Just to really mess with the clean freaks. And now we're back to our door again. I'll put a little cavity wax in that bottom seam. Put our door speaker back in. Screw it in. Apparently I'm boycotting power tools right now. Put our water barrier back up. Put the bracket in for our door pull. And now we can put some wax on the inside of this rocker and dog leg that we changed. Just to make sure we don't have any rust in there. Make sure our repair lasts at least as long as the car. Now we're ready to put our door panel on the back. So we'll clip in our handle and lock. Set it down into place. And clip it in. Plug in our switches. Put in our screws. One behind the grab handle, one behind the door handle. And we put our little caps in. I'm gonna put the rocker molding up. Put all our little plugs in there. Just clip it in across the top. Just one screw in the back. One inside the wheel well. One inside the wheel well in the front. And one more screw in the front. Guess I didn't record that. Now we got a couple clips across the bottom and that's done. Now we can install our gas door. Just rivets into place. Plug in our strap for our gas cap. Now we're on to our mechanical work. You know, the stuff we were supposed to do when we started.
In the pile.
Toss out that lug nut that's the wrong size. I got some used replacements we'll throw on there.
To all the good luck getting that crank bolt off, people, try using an impact with a little power. Never had a problem.
So I'm going to give you the gist of this timing belt and how I do it. Just loosen up the rear belt. It's actually just a power steering belt. We're not even going to worry about the front belt yet. Screw the puller into the crankshaft pulley. And pull the pulley off. Belt comes with it. If you don't take at least one belt off, it kind of fights you. So now we'll just run the belt around it, and we'll get to it later. We'll pop our cover off for our timing belt, at least the lower one.
So for those of you that don't know, my real job is actually a mechanic. I just play a rebuilder on YouTube. So this is what I do all day long. It's why I don't really like doing it right now, because it's my job. I enjoy rebuilding because it's something different. So I'd like to have somebody else do this, but quite honestly, I haven't found any gnomes I trust. So the timing belt's pretty straightforward. The only problems I've really ever had with these is this upper mount here. Sometimes the bolts break and the mount likes to seize. But because I knew I was doing this, I soaked it down with penetrating oil a couple times a while back. So hopefully everything comes apart, makes our life easy.
So we'll start up unbolting our upper mount. A little more penetrating oil to get this mount off. Got that bracket out. Now we can disconnect the wires. Got another bracket. And we'll try to get the bracket for the mount out. It's aluminum with a metal pin. And that's why it likes to seize. So we'll just take our time.
That's that pin that usually gets stuck. Penetrating oil works wonders.
So we're in the clear. Or are we? We'll pull the upper cover for the time belt off.
Woohoo! And that's why we do timing belts and we can't verify.
So if a car has a timing belt that I'm selling and it's due for a new timing belt by either miles or date, I go ahead and change it. If I have some kind of documentation that was just done that I can rely on, I'll let it go. I'm glad I did this one. This belt didn't have many days left. So we'll pull the rest of our little bracket out of here.
No job is complete without our favorite tool, even a timing belt. You got a bolt that doesn't want to come out. I'm going to change its mind.
Yes, that's right. an air chisel for a timing belt. Would you expect anything less on this channel? So somebody's been here before. They wanted to make sure the next guy had a real struggle when he was trying to do this timing belt. I'm that next guy. So they ran the bolt in with their 1-inch impact after putting as much Loctite as they could find on the threads. They rounded off the head, and then I think they welded it on because it was not coming out. We're not even going to talk about the few Chicago winters and salt that really helped it rust in there.
Just so you didn't think I was trying to cut the bolt off, all I was doing was hitting the side of this tensioner just to break this little ear off. That allowed me to have the bolt protruding and get a pair of vice grips on there and spin it the rest of the way out. And then just replace the bolt.
So now we can pull our water pump out. While we're here and we're changing the time belt, we'll do the water pump as well. We'll also change the tensioner and all the idler pulleys for the time belt. Comes with the kit.
In the pile.
So now we can start throwing it all back together. Put our bracket on for our engine mount. Throw our upper cover in. Hardest part's getting around the wiring harness in the back. Now our favorite aluminum bracket. If I can remember which way it goes. Now we'll put our upper mount on. Put our bolts in. Tighten them down. Click. I'll bolt our little strut in there. Throw our lower cover on. Put our crank pulley on. Put our bracket on for our power steering. And on to the oil change. It's definitely time for an oil change too. The maintenance required light was on, so it had been a while since oil was changed. Spin the filter off there. We'll put an oil plug back in there. Tighten it down to 3,000 foot-pounds. And send it to Jiffy Lube for our revenge. Throw our oil back in. And now we're going to change the radiator, because somehow an oil change ruined the radiator. So the transcooler line on the side of the radiator, the side that I was working nowhere near, decided it was just going to blow off. So when I started it up to make sure the oil was full, I had trans fluid everywhere. I could understand if it was on the side I was working on where I might have bumped it, it's old, and things break. But it was on the side that I was nowhere near and hidden behind a bunch of stuff. I guess it was just its time. Sometimes coincidences just work out like that. So here I am, putting a radiator in. I guess it's better that it happened now than after I sell it and I have an unhappy customer. So radiators are pretty easy on these. Just pull that upper tie bar off and they come out the top.
So the rear struts on this thing are pretty tired, the mounts are worn out, and our boots are all tore up. So instead of just getting each individual part, it was easier to get the quick struts and cheaper. Now these got lost in Narnia for a while. That's what took me so long to get back to this. It saved me a few bucks, but I had to wait a little while. Now I waited a while for these because these are the ultra quick struts. So they save a lot of time. They're worth the wait. So let's install them. First we got to put it back in the box. And you just kind of wheel it in here. There we go.
Couldn't be simpler. Once you use the ultra quick struts, you'll never go back. So if you noticed on the other side, our brakes are all new. And I had already done my standard brake job. You know how I do it. And before you say it's all camera tricks, one of the other channels has actually practiced the technique, and he's learned it too. It's Wes over at Watch Wes Work. Link's up there to his channel if you want to check him out. He does some pretty cool stuff with old farm machinery and occasionally works on cars. But he's mastered it. Anyway, back to our quick struts, or ultra quick struts. So here's our Lexus, mostly complete. There's a few little things left to do that were done after I shot this portion of the video. So in addition to the timing belt, oil change, and the brakes that I originally planned on, we also had to replace the left side curtain airbag, have the airbag module reset, replace the door, replace the dog leg, paint both left doors, the quarter, and rear bumper. And that was just to fix the incorrect repair of the someone that had been there before. No thanks to the Carfax. I found some additional mechanical work it needed, like the rear struts, wiper blades, replacing the incorrect lug nuts, and a wheel bearing. Some mechanical problems found me, namely the radiator. Now it's all ready to go, and looks pretty good for 163,000 miles. I'm not a big fan of the wheels, they're kind of boring. Yes, even for me. If I were keeping it, I would change the wheels for the newer RX400H wheels, but now that I have my cheap Grand Am, I no longer need this for a winter beater. I really like the RX model Lexuses, so maybe we can convince the afternoon crew that she needs one, and to give up her terrain, which she stole from me. And also, why I don't even feel the least bit guilty about using the dining room table as a workbench in my last video. I talk a big game now, but once she watches this video, this could be my last one. So it's been fun. So it looks like we could actually be done with the build that never ends. Even though it was seemingly simple, sometimes you run into problems. It just happens. But there's only one way to be absolutely sure this job is done, and that's to play everyone's favorite game. What's in my console? So let's find out. I think I found out what was causing all the problems. Should have no problems now. Bondo. It's everywhere. Bolts. No build is complete without them. These Lexus consoles are deceptively large. Brand new set of OEM floor mats. Nice. I don't think I'll toss these out the window. That looks like it. I guess this build really is done. So like this video if you found it interesting. Share it if you think somebody else might. Subscribe to see whatever's coming up next. As always, thanks for watching. And I'll see you soon. Now I gotta go pick up all my junk. Should have left this out there. Hope it's not a sign of things to come.